I have to say that it's this work, which we saw as a pilot project with the refugees, was so engrossing that it was, the most meaningful thing in my career, and it was absolutely heartbreaking when the funding stopped. So I wanted to advocate for it more widely. At one point, I did manage to raise a little funding that extended it for a year or two. But after that, the most I could do was publicize and advocate and think it through. So it's not that there are a lot of peace education programs going on, and the ones that are successful are very often from NGOs on a small scale, or let's say in Colombia, the university there's a university that's very much active in that area, and they pick up zones where conflict is like endemic, and try to install this in the education in those particular zones. So I think we have this choice between what I call intensive activity, where we really, on a small scale, have a big impact on a limited number of people, and the wider reaching programs, which will not be so impactful, but will take the message to more people. So I think we have to use multiple channels. Around about 1990, it was very fashionable to talk about multiple channels. And I think that's absolutely true. As you've seen with gender and environment, that those messages have come through every channel you can imagine. Mm-hmm. And they're still rather uphill, but they've made some impact. And my wish is that social and emotional learning and its application to peaceful living and sustainable living can go alongside environment and gender as absolutely essential cross-cutting issues for any discussion of education.
Yes, that sounds lovely. In fact, so much of the work that we want to do in gender, for example, about unlearning our own biases, even about assertiveness training, would involve a fair bit of self-awareness, social awareness, learning to manage one's emotions and thoughtfully, mindfully choose responses to situations.
So, the huge problem we face, as you know, is that it's relatively easy to include social and emotional learning in the early years education. Mm-hmm. And in fact, though it's a good thing, it doesn't really, it's not the big advocacy challenge. The big advocacy challenge and the big intellectual challenge is how to do that after the early years. I was looking at a report yesterday on playful learning from Brookings. And in a way, they're saying that good education, which engages the students and has activities and so on, is playful learning at any level. But in practice, most of the big drive to push social and emotional learning is in the early years, where it's rather easy. And so in that regard, the term life skills, which is very widely used, it means the same thing. You use the same skills, but then you are applying it either to peace or to adolescent relationships, or to substance abuse. And I fear that using the term social and emotional learning is bringing us to focus on very soft things and not that application. If you don't practice the skills with some application, you won't make the connection, from what you did in infant schools. So it's a very, very big challenge how to make it work for the higher age groups.